My name is Maggie Wetherbee and I'm the head of collections for the Washington State Historical Society. Welcome to our loan processing room. This is at the main museum site of the Washington State History Museum. So it's where we have all of the artifacts that we're getting ready to go on exhibition actually go. You can see there's a door over there, that's crate storage, where we store all of the crates from the incoming exhibitions. So we're very fortunate to have this big, wonderful space here to work in. We also keep collections in a separate building, which is our original building over by Stadium High School, in case you're interested. The Research Center is our original building, and that's where we actually keep all of our collections materials, our permanent location. So today I am going to be talking to you all a little bit about incoming donations, how to deal with them, and also what to do after you get a piece like this in your collection. Like many museums, we have a process for having donations come in through an acquisitions committee. Donations that are not just dropped off at the front door, that's a whole separate entity, and I am happy to talk to you all about that because I know it happens to all of us. Come in through my department, which is the collections department, and I am responsible for taking potential donations to our acquisitions committee. Our acquisitions committee is made up of members that are assigned by our executive director to decide what meets the museum's mission and our collection policy and our collecting plan, and what we move forward into the permanent or teaching collections. We also have a board of trustees group that is a collections committee that I meet with separately than the acquisitions committee to make sure that they know what's coming into the collection. Sort of like an oversight for us, just making sure that we're doing what we need to be doing for the process. If you are fortunate not to have a piece like this dropped off at the front door or the side door or the staff door, if they know you, which we all have happened here even too, and you know that an artifact is coming into you, what we do is have a temporary receipt. A temporary receipt is the chain of custody paperwork that will allow a potential donor to drop off an artifact or a piece of archival material for your staff to review before any of the processes take place. The temporary ID number that is given to each artifact as it comes in is directly reflected on the temporary receipt paperwork. So you'll notice in lots of museum collections, something like this that's waiting to go through has a piece of paper right next to it, right? Because we want to make sure that we keep all of those together. So we have our temporary receipt and we have our temporary number that's been assigned to our artifact. I can then work with the family to get all the information, all the stories that go behind this particular artifact and move it forward to my acquisitions committee. Now, at the Washington State Historical Society, our paperwork that we submit to this acquisitions committee is really robust. We have a lot of information in it from the family because we think it's really important that they tell us about their piece of family history in their own words. And we really, really want to capture their own words for our records. That's not something that was always done in the past, but we're really looking forward to making sure that that happens in the future. So everything in this paperwork that we're compiling with the family should be enough information to be able to catalog this collection later. So I'm mentioning it because if you do a lot of paperwork early on in the process, you should have everything you need if the acquisitions committee accepts it for you to move forward quickly and well. So after you have done all the paperwork and have submitted everything to your own acquisitions committee or collections committee or whatever your group is called, if the group votes yes and your item is going to be moved to the permanent collection like this particular piece here, then you would move the next step to making sure that you're documenting everything well for the collection. So that first piece of paper I talked about you filling out, the temporary receipt, actually goes in the file, right? You're going to make a file for your new artifact, and you are going to, at that point, determine what its new museum number is. Because remember, you had a temporary number that was assigned with a temporary ID for the temporary receipt. I know I said temporary like 3 times there, but that piece of paper is the legal chain of custody that you have to keep the artifact at your facility without having to officially accept it. So I can't stress how important that is, just from a legal standpoint, making sure that you don't have a lot of problems moving forward. Does it happen that lots of institutions don't have that in place? Yes. Is it something that's easy for you to fix? Yes. Please feel free to reach out if you would like lots of additional information about this. So now that you have your artifact, it's been accepted by your committee, and you're ready to go with that, you need to make sure that you send out or have your donor come in to see you so you can sign a deed of gift with them. The deed of gift is the legal paperwork that you need to have the artifact in perpetuity moving forward. This replaces the temporary receipt as the official piece of paperwork that you have for the artifact in question. It's the most important document you're going to have about an artifact, so make sure that you have a file with the donation information that is set aside separately to make sure that you have a paper trail as well for your specific artifact. So when we start to look at an artifact like this, again, you have all of your paperwork signed and you're legally ready to go and prepared to accept this beautiful piece into the collection. What you're going to do now is look at the numbering system that you have and try to determine which number you would like to be given. I know lots of places keep a ledger. I know that PastPerfect and lots of other softwares actually self-populate your next number. It's really, really important that one person is in charge of passing the numbers out. I can just flat out say it. In my department, that's my registrar who's in charge of handing out the numbers. And I have to tell you, I have to remind everyone all the time that there's only one person who's allowed to hand out numbers. So it happens to all of us that people get excited, right? We get excited when we see this really cool artifact coming in and we want to just like, let's get to work on it. But make sure the number is correct so you don't have to come back and do additional work. So this artifact here is actually a transit. It's actually pretty cool. It is a piece of equipment that was used to survey, and you can see here that it has multiple parts. It has this lovely box with really amazing, I have to say, I really enjoy this detail at the top, and it's really fun because this is very useful in the sense that a lot of the times these pieces of equipment were used with people who had horses and mules. So like super interesting to think about that. But so we have the box, we have this bit here. The box actually comes apart. So we have bits in here. Here is the second piece that you can see coming out here. There are also some other pieces of equipment here. Some other knobs for different things in here. And another weight that's here. So our artifact has how many pieces? It's got 1 for the box. It's got 2 for this plate piece here. It's got 3 for the legs. It's got 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. There are 7 pieces in this artifact. Okay, so now you're ready to number your artifact that has come in the best way possible for your institution. Mackenzie, who is the member of my team, who is our registrar, was able to give me the number of 2021.50.1 for this artifact. You'll notice that this artifact has many pieces. We counted 7 different components to them. Everyone's numbering convention is a little bit different. Some institutions would make this 0.1A would be the box, B would be the face, C be this piece here, D would be this piece here, E, F, and then piece G. In some numbering conventions, they actually like to use another number instead of a letter. And whatever convention you're using, that's fine. Just please try and be consistent with it, so it's not confusing in 50 years when someone who is our colleague in the future tries to look at an artifact. So look at your numbering convention and see how you would best number the piece. But I want to make sure that you all know that here we would need to have multiple numbers for this. Now, please don't also decide that you can just do one record for the entire piece, right? Really think about the numbering convention and how you would like the record to look in your software or in your files. So try to keep that in mind as you move forward as well. Now that you've done all of your processes and you've looked to start cataloging your artifacts, you do need to make sure that you put the number on the artifact. I don't know how many collections I've gone into and seen a number put on the very front of something, and how when you go to display that, how hard it is to cover up. I've actually just taken numbers off before and moved them to a different location. So know you can do that. If you have something in your collection where the number is really not in a great space for display, you can always take it off and look for other options. So please look for somewhere that is not going to be obtrusive to the viewer and the visitor, but still will make sure that you have a good place for the number to be. The back here would be a good place for the number. We also have a tag, an artifact tag. Same here. Try to do somewhere along the bottom, right? You don't want to try to do something that's going to be a place where people can see it. Now you are ready to start affixing numbers to your actual artifact, which is wonderful. So remember that having a tag like this one is perfectly fine and wonderful, but in the event of an emergency, it's hard if this is the only way an artifact is numbered. So try and make sure that you are affixing a number to the pieces in the best way that you can. I'm going to show you how my team here at the museum, in a very low cost, low budget way, this is our box here that says object labeling supplies. Super fancy high-tech box. We spent so much money on all of this. But I wanted to show you what's in here because these are all very easily accessible things. A little paintbrush. We've got some Q-tips and cotton balls in here as well. We also have some of the paint that, the white paint that you see often in the kits that you can get from any archival institution. So any archival institution that you can get materials from does sell a small kit that contains things like this. If you don't want to put your own together, they're super low cost, and it's an easy way to have everything together in a waterproof container. The other thing that you can use with different materials is clear nail polish that you write on will work as well. It's really important that you think about how you would like to number your pieces. For instance, if you have textiles, it would be great if you could take some twill tape and sew that into the textile itself with the number. You can make sure that you are being safe with the artifact, but also making sure that its number stays with it for perpetuity. So try to keep that in mind while you're working on this process. So to do these artifacts here, we would need, of course, this, our handy dandy little paint, our paintbrush, and take some Q-tips. If you take a Q-tip and you clean the area beforehand, and then what you're going to do is, and these have already been done, so what you're going to do is paint the area, and then using an archival pen that most kits have, again, this is not an expensive option. You can see here, this is on the underside. The number here is on the underside of how the artifact would stand. So it's important that this piece has a number. It's also important that this piece here has a number, and again, it's on the back and out of sight, which is very helpful for display purposes. And also making sure that you see that even the removable part of the box has its own number here. So trying to make sure that you're being careful with the artifact, you're not going to deface the artifact with a number, but have the number somewhere where your colleagues and yourself can really easily identify an artifact is really important to making sure that the information that you worked so hard to get from donors is preserved with the artifact. Now that you've worked so hard to get to this stage here, congratulations, great job. I know this is a lot of work. We're going to transition over to the cataloging portion of the video. And for that, we're very happy to pass it over to Caitlin, who is the curator of collections at Fort Nisqually. And take it away, Caitlin.
Thanks, Maggie. So I'm going to be going over a little bit about what PastPerfect can do for you and your organization, and then also how to use it so that it's easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay, so this is what your home screen is going to look like on PastPerfect. Over here you have some tools that you can use for donors, members, campaigns, that sort of thing. Over here you have all the different types of collections that PastPerfect is capable of organizing for you, your objects, photos, archives, libraries. You can use one of these collections, you can use all of them, whatever is going to be most useful for your organization. And then down here you have some additional tools, which I'll go over a few of those at the end as well. So we're just going to jump in with objects here. So you get your object, you've filled out your donation paperwork, you have your temporary receipt, you've gotten your object number from your registrar or whomever at your organization it is that is going to be designating the object numbers. So you come to your home page here and you're going to add your object. So our object number for this transit is going to be 2021.50.01 A through G, because it has multiple parts, right? And you don't necessarily have to, you can use whatever numerical system is going to work for you and your organization. This is just a basic system that many organizations use, but it's not the end all be all or the only way to use. So you add in your object ID here, and then you're going to want to enter your object name. So to standardize it, you can enter in whatever object name you want. You can enter just in transit if you want, but there is a lexicon that you can use to kind of standardize all of your objects that you're entering. And so it gives you some categories here, and you're able to just, click, go through your subcategories, search for your object name. I already went through and figured out for a transit, we're going to find it in tools and equipment for science and technology. Then we're going to go to a survey and navigation tools and equipment. And then we're going to go to transit down here, all the way down here. There it is. So it shows up down here, transit, select this item. And then, so that's gonna, it's just standardizing the categories basically. So you add your new record there. It's gonna prompt you to say what collection it's going into. So for here, I'm just gonna put Washington State History Museum collection, or whatever your collection name is. You can then enter other names, if there's old accession numbers, maybe from a previous institution, or whatever it is. But so you're able to add some additional information there. The date, so you can put today's date or year, or whatever's going to work for you. The year range, so if you know the range that your object came from. So I do not know what year that transit is from, but I'm going to say 1870 through 1930. I don't know if that's correct, but you'll know for your object. The catalog date is today's date. Cataloged by, you want to put your name, full name in there. Status date, so the status of your object. You could leave this blank when you're accessioning your object. I like to put in today's date. Ooh, that's not today's date. Let's see. I like to put in what are we doing here? That's interesting. All right, well, that's being a little stinker right now. But normally I would put in today's date, so that you can say like, it was accession today, the status was checked today. It's all good as of today. And then next time you check on the object, again, you can update the status. And then same thing, status by you or whoever is entering it, and status. You can put good. Other statuses might be missing, damaged, whatever the status of your object is at that point. So then description. So the point of everything that you're adding in here, you're going to put as much information as you have on that object. It's all going in here. So you will have the paper file for your object, right? And then you're going to put all of that information into here. So you can put your description in here, everything that is on the donor form that the donor filled out for you. Then let's see, you can do the collector, there's some different categories over here depending on what your object is. So if it's an archaeological item, you can put who it was excavated by, identified by, the site number. There's art objects, geology, history, natural history, and then a custom field as well. I am at a history museum. Maggie's at a history museum. We tend to use the history tab the most. So you put all your information in the description, and then there's provenance. So you can put the history of where the object came from. So once you have all that information, you can kind of go ahead and add some details on the side here. So we have appraisal. Now we do not appraise objects, right? But when the donor fills out their donor sheet, they might put a value in of how much they expect it to be, or how much the value is to them. They may also have had it appraised at some point. So if it has been appraised, or if you get it appraised for whatever reason by a professional appraiser, you can put that information in here. Condition, I always like to fill out the condition tab, just because, so that you know what condition the object is in when it lands in your lap, right? And so you might have a paper form that's a condition sheet that goes in the physical file, and that's fine. You can also do a condition report in here. You can do both, whatever's going to work best for you. And then you can update the condition as time goes on. So you do an inventory in a couple of years and you see that the condition has changed. You can fill this out, and so it'll update. So you'll see right here a history of the condition of the item. So each time you update the condition, you'll be able to see how it's changed on the right-hand side here. We have dimensions, just your basic dimensions, always good to have, especially if you have multiple items that are similar in your collection. Sometimes dimensions if say if they're not labeled, you find things in your collection that aren't labeled, dimensions will help identify it. You got your lexicon, so that is going to automatically fill in when you put the object name in. Location, definitely want to be putting your location in here as soon as you get it. So when you get the object, you can put a temporary location in if you haven't yet figured out where its permanent home is going to be in your storage space. But then once you do figure out its home location, you want to fill out as much detail on here as possible, because it's just going to make your life that much easier when you go to find that object next time. And then you can move it around too. So you can put it in a temporary location, say it's on exhibit, it's seeing a conservator, it's sitting on your desk, wherever it is, you can move it around. And then you can also put it on loan right here. There's loan options, or below it is exhibit options. You can put it on exhibit as well. But you want to track the movement of your objects. It's just going to stop you from losing things. Notes and legal, any additional notes that weren't appropriate to put in the description here, you can add to your notes tab. Next tab is the people. This tab is going to be super helpful for searching for groups of objects or searching for objects that relate to other objects. So we have people here at Fort Nisqually, for example. We have several groups of people that keep popping up over and over. So we have the Tolmie family, the Huggins family. There's a few other people who worked for Hudson's Bay Company. So we can add those people in here. And then if we search for those people, it'll pull up all the objects that are related to those people. So say like Dr. Tolmie owned this transit and it was also used by some other person. We can search for all those people. So at my museum, for example, we have agriculture, we have Hudson's Bay Company, we have Native American, we have, there's just all these different subjects. So you can create different subjects and then relate your objects as you accession them to these subjects, and it just makes it easier for you to search for them. It's also, you can add in whatever random search terms you want, anything that's just going to make it easier for you to search for it. Let's see. We got repatriation. If you ever repatriate an object, you can document it here. Source, so this is where you got the object from, and then also if you use credit lines for when the object goes on exhibit, they can give you their credit line and you can have it documented here. Maker's mark, always helpful for identifying the objects. You can add notes on that here. Lists, lists are very useful, and I'm going to go over those a little bit later, but you can have lists for, all the objects that are going on exhibit next year, or, whatever it is. You can create lists and add objects to your different lists. And then, so once you have filled out all the information that you could possibly fill out here, you hit save. So now it is in your collection. You also, the last thing you're always going to want to do when you add an object to your collection is give it an image, because it's going to be so hard to find your object in the future if you don't even know what it looks like. So to add an image, you're just going to click on this little button here, and then you're going to go to acquire new image and attach an image. And then I have a picture of a transit here. Display order, so this is going to be the first one. You can add multiple images to one accession record, and you can decide what order you want them to be displayed in. Add whatever details here. Enter a caption. I'm just going to transit. Okay. So there, now you have the image attached to the object, and you're able to print that, and you have some options here. But so now when you go back to your accession record, the image pops up right here. So it's, you know exactly what object you're looking at. So that is how you accession a record. Super easy. You just want to make sure you're putting in as much detail as possible. Other things you can do with it. So here, down here, we have the temporary custody. So Maggie had talked about how you always want to make sure you have a temporary custody form, so that you have that legal chain of custody. So you can have the paper form, or you can also click on here and fill out a form. Exhibits, so this is a very useful tool. You can create an exhibit and add all of your objects from your collection that are going to be in that exhibit. to the exhibit record. And that's just, it just makes it easier for you. And you can also add images of your exhibit, same way you would add images of the objects. Exit that. Incoming loans, same thing. You can keep a paper record. You can also keep a digital record of your incoming loans, outgoing loans, and deaccessions. Oh, that's what I want to go over with y'all. Deaccessioning and editing. So once you've created this record, you can update it as much as you need. You can go to edit here, and it allows you to, change and update as needed. You can, go to your, go to your condition, update the condition, all that, and then you just have to hit save. Super easy. Then to deaccession an item, well, so you can delete an item if you mess up, say you mess up on something that it doesn't allow you to edit, you can just delete the item. But if you want to deaccession an object from your collection, you're going to want to go to edit, and you're going to click deaccession here. So it's going to ask for a little bit of information. A helpful note before you deaccession items, I always go through and print your accession and put it in the paper file, the object files, so that you have a record of how it was accessioned. Because once you deaccession it, you're still going to have some of the information, but it's not going to keep all of the information that you had originally. So you print it first, go ahead and add, all the information it's asking for, and then you can hit deaccession now. And then once you hit deaccession now, it'll be stored in your deaccessions here. And so it's going to keep a record of everything that you have deaccessioned. You can see here, I had deaccessioned an item that's been missing for over a decade. Then let's see, a few other very helpful little things that you can use here is the lists. So here's some of our lists that we have. We have exhibit lists, lists based on location, where they are in the museum, that sort of thing. Any list that's going to be helpful for you. So create new folder, give it an, or create a new list, excuse me, and then it'll allow you to add objects to that list. Let's see, and then so search by people. Remember I told you that, say you wanted to associate an object with Dr. Tolmie, you could go to here and look up all the people or all the items. You can see there's 13 objects in my collection that's related to Dr. Tolmie. And if you click on biography info, you can see all those items, and then you can also see there's a little biography on Dr. Tolmie here. So let's see. So if you go to people, you could look up all the objects that are associated with, whoever that one person is. So say you want to look up Dr. Tolmie. Here is Dr. Tolmie here. You can see he has 13 objects associated with him. And then you can click on his biography info and see his whole biography here. And all those objects that are associated with him. So you can click on catalog records and biographical information. And so, and you can get all the information on him here. So to add in that biography record, if that's something you're interested in doing, you'd go to people biographies here. There you go. And similar to adding an object to your collection, you'd just be adding a biography. So you would add, put in the person's name, add them, and then it'll allow you to edit all this information, and then you can associate it with all the objects in your collection that are relevant. Let's see, is there anything else here that might be helpful? There are some others, so there's sites and localities too, which I don't use so much as a history museum, but it could be useful for archaeology, or it could, it just depends on what collections are coming through your door and what you're accepting into your collection. So yes, those are a few tips on how to use PastPerfect reports. One last thing you're going to want to know: how to look up objects, how to search for objects. So if you know the object ID of the object you're looking for, you can just go to find and type it in. You can also search for the accession number the catalog date, the collection. You can search by any of these. Or if you don't have any information, you're just looking for, say, I don't know, a fork, you can go to query here. And I like to go to description, because description is going to have the bulk of my information on that object. And then you can, begins with, contains text. I like to do contains text, so you can do just for a word search. Fork. Add statement and run your query. There you go. So it's going to come up with all of your accessions that have the word fork in the description. And so you can click view those records, you can view the images, you can export it to Excel, or you can also print the results so that you have kind of a just a printed report. All right, so that has been a quick and dirty how to use PastPerfect to your advantage. I thank you guys for coming today, and I hope that this was helpful for you.